I did not anticipate the Chicago White Sox losing to the Colorado Rockies with Dylan Cease on the mound, but that's exactly what happened on Wednesday. The White Sox lost to the Rockies 3-0 on Dylan Cease Day. Nobody told the Rockies to just roll over and let us have this one. And if they did, Colorado did not listen. It was a disappointing loss for the White Sox, but they need to wipe it from their memory because all the focus needs to be on the Cleveland Guardians.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Really appreciate you letting me steal some of your time to talk White Sox. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Lots of White Sox conversations to be had here as the Sox lost to the Rockies on Wednesday and have a must-win situation on their hands in Cleveland. To help me talk all things White Sox, I'm very excited to be joined by my good friend and co-host of the weekly White Sox podcast, Good Guys Talk Back, Pat Hester. Welcome to Locked On White Sox.
Nick, it's good to talk to you, buddy. The budgets must be getting low. End of the season, you bring in me, so that's good. I appreciate that you kept me on retainer, and I was really excited to join you today until the White Sox played.
Yeah, you are here to maybe calm me down or maybe get me fired up. I don't know, because this is such a big win here on Thursday. State of the Sox 73-70. 4 games back in the AL Central, chasing the Cleveland Guardians. 19 games left. Sox under the leadership of Miguel Cairo, 10-5 with a plus 31 run differential. Sox lost to the Rockies on Wednesday, 3-0. We'll start there, but we're definitely going to focus on this Cleveland game coming up. Cease, he kind of reverted back to some old ways. 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, 107 pitches through 5 innings, Pat. Was this a situation of the White Sox maybe just looking too far ahead into the future to Thursday, or are they now flat? Are they back to how they were before?
Just when we think we have this team figured out, Nick, they changed the narrative once again. It was interesting with Cease today because, again, he had been, even though his walks have been relatively high for as successful as has been this year, he's been able to pitch around things, get a double play when he needs it. So it hasn't really, he hasn't been complete Cease where it's like innings just blow up on him. Today was one of the worst games I've seen him pitch really this year, just in terms of, that first inning, bases loaded and able to get out of that inning, but just the pitch count piled up. I think he was at 90 pitches through 4, if memory serves. That's not going to a recipe for any kind of success. So though, he didn't have his best day, I mean, he still kept the Sox in the game, right, Nick? It wasn't like they were getting blown out or bludgeoned. So I put this loss more on this offense. I mean, you have to score runs if you're going to plan on winning any games. So Cease had an off day. The offense could have picked him up today. He's picked up the offense many a times throughout the year. This could have been a great time for them to return the favor.
Yeah. Again, we hold Cease to such a high standard these days because of the streak he's been on, and this kind of start isn't going to help his Cy Young candidacy at all. But you're right. Offense And let's also be honest, the defense didn't help Cease out at all, nor has the defense been helping anybody out all season long. That has to get figured out like immediately. I mean, they can't do that against the Guardians. They
No.
cannot do that moving forward if they think they've got a shot still. Bullpen was nice to see. 4 innings of scoreless effort, only 1 hit, 0 walks, 7 strikeouts. So that was nice to see. But Sox offense, man, 0 runs, 8 hits, 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. I mean, there were multiple times where they started an inning off, they had a guy on second, and they just couldn't get anything done. That troubles me, Pat. That worries me quite a bit.
Well, Savala, I think, had probably had the best
Yeah.
opportunity early on in the game with a ball that was caught in the corner there, which is, unfortunate. And it just seems like there were a couple moments today, Nick. It just didn't seem like our day. I take it from batter number one when a ball falls between 3 guys again. A pop up that should have been caught, a ball or play that's made in the outfield against us, right? Where it's just we weren't being able to find any green grass or hit the ball all over the fence when we had runners on or move guys over. It's just that continued theme. But here's what I'll say is the positive. And you had talked about earlier, maybe pumping you up or helping you stay positive. I'll do my best here. We do have a different voice in the dugout that I think maybe can put a little sense of urgency in the team and go, let's stop the bleeding right now. Today was just a blip on the most recent streak here, or most recent radar. Let's turn things around. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow is the biggest game of the year thus far. We've got 3 more biggest games of the year coming up. Hopefully they still matter when we get to that point. And I believe, from all the chatter that you've heard, and you've documented it on this podcast many a times and talked about it a lot, anybody that's covered this team, people are writing about it. Miguel Cairo has a different voice. And if anything else, I trust that Miguel will be able to reach the players, shake them up a little bit, say, let's go. We cannot take a day off like that again tomorrow. Tomorrow has got to be it.
Yeah, it's it's this one game in Cleveland, which playing in Progressive Field, Pat, is like playing in the old Metrodome these days. Cleveland's pesky. They don't seem to match up well against our White Sox team. They know the skills that they have and they use them. Speed, hustle, defense. Sox, it feels like they've got one foot in the grave right here. And if you're on social media, which can be problematic at times, it was like a funeral today, on Wednesday, I should say, for the White Sox. And they're 4 games back. They're 5 back in the loss column. You have to win all 4 games with Cleveland here on out. It feels a little like 2008. Remember the end of that? However, there is no 163. It comes down to the head-to-head records between Cleveland and the White Sox. So let me ask you, if you're a season ticket holder right now, you got the communication, you got the emails to buy into a playoff package, and any tickets that don't go used, you can put that money towards next season's tickets if you're going to be involved. Would you, Pat? I know you're not a season ticket holder, but if you were, would you buy playoff tickets and even buy more if you could right now?
I don't know if I'd buy more. I would buy some. I mean, I would make the investment because, it still is baseball. If you look at this year and you look at these teams that they've been all year, I think they've proven who they are. The Sox are slightly above 500 team. That's who they are. They've played that way. They've played well at times. They've played, like today at times as well. And I think Cleveland's the same way. Cleveland at one point they were up. What was their lead in the division when we went through our streak against the Arizona Diamondbacks? Did we fall to 5 or
6? We were definitely 6 games out. Yeah.
And then they went on a tailspin. So, Cleveland is hot right now. It doesn't mean that they're definitely going to go the other direction anytime soon, but they've got that in them too. We've seen that from them. These none of these teams in this division are anything that anybody should be scared of. So whoever wins this division is going to be the definite underdog against whoever they will play. But you're right in your analysis in terms of, we don't match up well. We don't match up well against teams that are athletic, that can steal bases, and that quite frankly can run it down in the outfield. We just do not match up well against those teams. And Terry Francona is one hell of a manager. I wish he was still in our organization. He was at one point, long ago, back in the 90s. He's the one that got away, and we should have tried to get back rather than Tony La Russa. But it is what it is. And let's just, I'd say, make the investment in hope, and then it goes for next year. It goes for next year. That's fine, because I just don't believe that Cleveland is all that impenetrable. They're going to lose some games down here. It's going to still be interesting. I don't know if we can get there, but it's still going to be interesting down the stretch.
Yeah. Speaking of managers and their worth, so to speak, another article dropped focusing on the difference that Miguel Cairo brings to the dugout in this White Sox team. Has Tony La Russa managed his last game? More on that in a moment. BetOnline is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline.net, where the game starts. So there was this Ken Rosenthal article. This was the latest article to drop. It was Bob Nightingale a couple days ago for USA Today, and it was Ken Rosenthal on Wednesday with this article in The Athletic, essentially an open letter for Tony La Russa to essentially go away, make the tough decision, and hand the keys over to Cairo. I'm going to give you, Pat, just a couple snippets of this, and maybe we can unpack it a little bit further. This was towards the kind of the middle of the article, a really interesting article by Rosenthal. Other White Sox people think the team's rash of soft tissue injuries perhaps stemmed in part from the players' lax approach, not always running hard, then asking too much from their muscles in short bursts. Such analysis is purely anecdotal, but the inference was clear. A team takes on the personality of its manager, and you did not hold the players to a high enough standard. And then at the very end of this open letter, Rosenthal says, take the noble path. Show this is not all about you. Make the announcement that just might save the White Sox season. It's Miggy's team now. Pat, what do you make of some of this from Rosenthal and The Athletic?
Well, it's interesting when he talks about the high standard, and equating to injuries. I don't know if that's an interesting one. I didn't thought about that in terms of, your injuries or the way that the manager, pushes guys or not pushes guys. I look at the injuries maybe as, are they not prepared? And is that all on Tony? I guess everything can be drawn back to the manager. He's in charge after all. The high standard part, I think, could be completely equated though to the defense, because when you continually let guys make mental mistakes and they're not corrected, it's almost like you put, when we're talking in football terms, when your offense continues to jump off sides, that's on the coach after a while, right? Because they're not well coached. So that's interesting. I'm not sure I 100% agree with the injury piece of it and holding guys to a high standard, but I guess I can draw that connection in some way, shape, or form. And then talking about, Tony being noble, and you and I were talking about it before we started recording. It's like, I'm showing up to this party, but nobody wants me there. And you still show up. It's like, well, I'm going to go to this party. I should be there. All my friends are there, but then your friends at the door say, please we don't really want you here. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, wait a minute, we were friends, right? I'm still coming in because I'm me. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to be in a place that doesn't really want me anymore. And there's only probably one person in the entire state that wants you there, and that happens to be the owner. So it's just a very interesting case. And I don't know if Tony, how much he reads or listens to all this stuff. I would imagine he's heard a little bit of it. You can talk all day about I don't read things or I don't listen to that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I
Yeah.
have to believe that he knows that the vibe around him nationally is negative.
You and I have been friends for over 20 years, have watched and talked White Sox baseball for just as long. And Reinsdorf has always been a presence with this organization. And we know the type of ego he has and what he feels and thinks about himself. And we know about Tony La Russa. And I feel like, in a way, Pat, this article might do the opposite, or these articles, Nightingale and Rosenthal and whatever else is written. And he might say, you know what, no, I'm going to force, like to your point, I'm going to still show up. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. Like he can't keep himself away just for personal reasons, despite the fact of what he's doing to this team and this organization, because Jerry says it's okay. So it has to come from a higher voice.
Yeah.
You
Well, the
have
only
to
thing,
take the decision out of his hands, Pat.
yeah, but the only thing I could go back to, whereas Tony could, take, I don't know if what the term was, it high ground or the noble
Mm-hmm.
way and just walk
Yep.
away. Tony's has said after last year, if this team wants me back to manage again, I will manage in terms of the players. That's what he's always said. Now, whether he actually believes that and would act on that is a different story. I think the players have respect for him as a man, as a person, and but they probably don't know what's good for them. Right, Nick? You're a father now. Eventually
Mm.
you're gonna have to discipline your son. And it's gonna be because they don't know what's best for them. I don't know that Tony knows how to discipline his guys, and he thinks they know what should be best and they should do the right things, but he should have been like a good father and a good disciplinarian at times and show them the right way instead of assuming they would know. That's not parenting, that's not teaching, that's not guiding anybody. So
Yeah.
I don't. It'll be interesting. I would really like him to just kind of just fade away into the distance.
Yeah, I unfortunately think this is going to hang over the heads of the organization and fans and players for a long time. I hope I'm proven wrong. But to your point, it's the message that Cairo is putting out there, from what we've been told in these articles and from what the players are saying. It's not a new message. It's just a new voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Cairo is saying it and kind of holding people accountable, Liam Hendricks said it best. It's like there's some players here that just have never been told no. And
Mm-hmm.
and you and I have talked a little bit about that in the Good Guys Talk Back podcast, where if you are always the best and you grow up the best and you're the best in every league you go and you travel around and you're given everything and you're told how great you're going to be always. And then when there's some adversity or when things aren't going your way and you have to really actually roll up the sleeves and figure something out, and no one holds you accountable,
Yeah.
that could be disastrous in a
Yeah.
clubhouse.
I know exactly what it feels like to be the best and always succeed every moment.
Yeah.
That totally resonates with me. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, these guys, some of them need a kick in the pants, and some of them be knocked down a little bit, and maybe built back up. I'm not saying they need to be berated or verbally accosted, but maybe it is a situation where you drop a fly ball or let one fall between you, and you're told to sit down for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, we're probably too late in the season for that to happen from that standpoint, because you can't be taking anybody that's the best possible player on the field. They need to be out there. But going forward, this organization's got to take a different look. If you're going to keep the majority of this core together, and we know who the majority of the core is, you've got to be able to address them and teach them and push them in a different way than has been done for the past year plus. That's almost 2 years.
Yeah. Is it too little too late? Thursday's game against the Guardians is a must win. We're going to tell you if the Sox can bounce back when it really matters. More on that in a moment. Sox have to completely shift focus, forget about that Colorado Rockies loss on Wednesday, and get ready to make a statement. Sox at Cleveland, 12:10 Central Standard Time. Lance Lynn has been shifted, of course. Giolito bumped to Friday in game one of the Detroit series. You've got Lance Lynn, who's been hot lately, versus Hunter Gaddis for the Cleveland Guardians. You might be saying, who? And I agree. I don't know if I've ever heard of this gentleman before. He's 0-1 with a 21.60 ERA. But Pat, he scares me to death right now.
Yeah, there's never anybody that you take lightly when you say I've never heard of him before, because that's been a recipe for disaster. There have been a couple things. Nick, you and I should probably write some type of pamphlet of things that scare us when it's White Sox. It's day games after a night game, any kind of getaway days. Those scare the hell out of us. Let's talk about stadiums that scare us. And then we're going to talk about pitchers that have no business even being in the major leagues, that have a 20 ERA that other teams would be licking their chops for. But this team, especially with the way this offense can sometimes play, scares us. But I feel like we have the right man on the bump in this situation.
You like that move?
I do like that move. And there was discussion today on the radio that I heard. There was some analytics out there with Cease going on 6 days rest, and it didn't prove out to be that fantastic. So not that today was good, so it didn't really work out in that way. So we will never know if he would have went, on 6 days rest and pitched tomorrow. But I like the decision to have Cease pitch today and Lynn go tomorrow, just because of what we've seen out of Lance Lynn lately. He is controlling, he throws 4 or 5 different versions of a fastball, Nick. And right now he looks like, you can just tell when he's on and he's throwing by his body language that he's feeling it. And he's been feeling it for quite a while. And he's even mixing in curveballs and some sort of an off-speed pitch as well. So he's the best version of Lance Lynn we've seen all year. And big time veteran pitchers, this is what we pay a Lance Lynn for. That's why we brought him here, is for games like this.
Yeah, he's a guy that's got the attitude. They talk about the fire and swagger a few weeks ago, and obviously we as a fan base have made a lot out of that from Johnny Cueto. Where is the fire? Where's the swagger? Lance Lynn's been bringing it. I mean, he has been a vocal leader, and he's been putting up the numbers. So I like the move. I don't know what that does to Giolito. Maybe that motivates him a little bit. Hey, I got to get my act together here. Folks are noticing, and he's smart enough to get that if he hasn't already. But I'm looking forward to this matchup. I really am. I feel like maybe Cleveland's not taking it as serious as we are. But this was Elvis Andrus after Wednesday's game. This is what Elvis had to say on the Guardians. Quote, "They have been playing perfect up until now. If we keep winning series, we know they're going to crumble the closer we get. Tomorrow is going to be a good game for us to put a statement. After that, go to Detroit and win that series." How about that, Pat? From Elvis Andrus, of all people.
You've got nothing to lose, right? And if it takes an Elvis Andrus to say, "Follow me and let's go," a veteran guy like that, he's definitely been worth his weight in gold since he came over here. He's been, talk about unforeseen situations in this 2022 White Sox year with a Johnny Cueto and an Elvis Andrus, the guys that have really, kept our seasons alive. Let's be honest. So, I'm fine with it. It is what it is. If it's bullet board material, it's bullet board material. If it motivates us, that's fantastic. At this point, what does it matter? Just get between the lines and take our chances. And if we lose, we put ourselves in a position that we were, trying to fight back from behind anyway. So, go out there swinging and give it your best shot.
It's such a tough time of the year when you're in this situation of 4 games back and, mid-September, and you start picking at the games that you could have won. I mean, you could go to game 1 Opening day in
Mhm.
Detroit, they let that game go away. It's it's a bad game to play. I've
Don't
played it.
do it.
You've played it. A lot of Sox fans out there have played it. I've heard about it on Twitter, and every loss that I'm reminded of, whether it's the Arizona, series, or games against the Guardians, the Naylor game, I can't stomach it. You have to focus up. Whatever's happened has happened. And Thursday, this game is the game. And
Yeah.
then Friday will be the game,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Well, Nick, you've always preached to me the games count just as much in April as they do in September. And I've always preached it's a marathon, it's just one game, and it's early. I will not do that anymore as a fan.
Oh,
You've converted me
all
to
right.
your religion. I don't know where I have to, if there's a
I'll
river I
give
have
you
to
my
jump in.
pamphlet. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm in because you're right. You look back at any of those games that were lost or given away, and that you talked about game one on a defensive miscue,
Mhm.
that just kind of set up the tone for the entire season of defensive miscues. So, we've continued to shoot ourselves in the foot, and you've got 19, was it 19 games, right? Left after
19.
19 games
19.
now to not shoot yourself in the foot. I would put a goal of let's not get more than one error
Yeah.
in any of these games.
Got to
Is
be
that
clean
is that
baseball.
doable? Is that even
Well,
doable?
it has to be, clean baseball. You can't give Cleveland extra outs. Lance Lynn has to be sharp in the offense, has to pick up each other. I'm not looking for, you don't have to hit 4 or 5 home runs, but you can't go 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position.
Mhm.
So the time is now. This is the season, and survive in advance. That's where we're at right now, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, bro. It's going to be interesting. It'll be fun. It'll be gut wrenching. Part of the time, I'd like to be, put on ice like Captain America and unfrozen in about 2 weeks and just see where it lies because I don't know if my stomach can take it. But we're going to ride this wave like we have for 150 games so far this year,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Pat, I really appreciate you joining me. Pat Hester, for co-host of Good Guys Talk Back, the weekly Chicago White Sox podcast. Pat, really appreciate your time, buddy.
Nick, thanks for having me. Anytime you need me, or if you don't have any budget left for a big star, you just let me know.
Oh, of course. All right, man. Take care. Go Sox.
Go Sox.
Folks, thank you so much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. I'll make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up on the next episode, I will recap Lance Lynn's outing and hopefully be talking about a White Sox winner. Really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Borowski. Until next time, go Sox.